Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to PSGL. George Morgan here, your commentator, alongside me, TK, who is going to be rounding off the season with me.
Down the inside,
absolutely impossible season.
This is for the win between these two.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
He needs to get it done now.
Blakely will dive to the inside.
We'll go bust. We got our elbows out.
Ronard takes the lead.
Because here comes Alfie Butcher.
Can't really complain with that one.
It's not going to be easy. The pressure is on, of course.
Yana Watmere is your champion.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the world. And welcome back to PSGL PCF2 for the second round of Season 43. My name is Max Ring. I'll be taking you through all the action here in Shanghai. And alongside me in the commentary box will be my long season partner and F2 regular, Omi. How are you, Omi, on this Thursday evening?
Hello Max, doing well. I hope everyone else is doing well as we get set for another exciting, thrilling installment of this championship. A championship which kicked off in style a week ago. And Max, you'll take us over to the standings. We may or may not have had a reserve driver, but also a driver who very much we know for in the F2 category as well over the years. Be the one who was the person to beat. 5 points is the advantage. He's here with us today, but he is a reserve. So at this point, we're usually thinking about, oh, one of your championship contenders, but he's a reserve. So he'll need one of the seats to open up for him if he is to join us here full time. But for now, he's your points leader.
Yes, that is Liam Stevens, who took full spoils last time out, as you can see, driver's standings. That is the result of last week's race. Perfect for us to show on here in round 2. But yes, took pole position and the race victory, giving him a total of 7 points. Race victory. 1 for a pole position. And he is here tonight as well. So it'll be interesting to see if he can carry on such a perfect streak. Ave Gabadi, promotion from F3. His first race here in PSGL F2, his debut. And it certainly kicked off nicely with a second place best of those promoted F3 drivers. And it's Pichor Stachulek who finished in 3rd. He's also here again tonight. Tony Hietara, Larry Tulke, Conrad Bohm, Stephen Vasso, Roshan Jacobs, who once again is also here tonight. So the 3 reserves from last week are here once again. And then it's Elia Tomasito and Santana who rounded out that top 10. But there were a few big talking points in that race, Omi. Of course, you had the likes of the contact between Stachulek and Hietala, which allowed Liam Stevens to break away. But you also had in the mid-pack that strategy gamble from Alejandro Herrero. So there was lots going on throughout that race, up and down the field. Sometimes it paid off, sometimes it didn't.
We had an F2 race last time out, which kind of played out like a typical F2 race as well. You've got everyone in the contention for victory. You've got the leader hoping that he can find a way to break away, and that opportunity usually would come with the drivers in behind getting into combat. That's exactly what happened. We mentioned it in commentary. I literally said the words that, if they continue doing this, they're going to cost themselves. Because, of course, they're against each other at the time, but they're going to cost themselves a chance of victory here. And quite literally a few laps after, that's exactly what they did. So, very much, you've got to sometimes think about risk versus reward. Is it worth right now just going all in to try and get second? Because you don't know. There could be some other chances that come if you remain in the train for the next 7 laps. But instead, what happened was that battle for the lead very much turned into a battle for second in those final stages. And Liam Stevens was able to convert a pole position to a race victory.
Yes, he certainly was indeed. And it never looked out, even that squabbling behind him worked out favour completely. But, ladies and gentlemen, the drivers are just loading in session. Will be underway for, of course, 18 minutes of qualifying here at the Shanghai National Circuit. So let's now head trackside, bring you the action for this evening. First driver out on the road will be, I believe, Nelson Alves in the Williams. Yes, it is, as he now makes his way down into turn 6 with a Ferrari starting to the inside of Tom Roberts. But, of course, here, Omi, this is going to be a big challenge for these drivers, this Shanghai circuit. Not too many places you can save that battery. Of course, you've got that really long back straight as well, where you really need to have a good amount of charge in that pack to just boost all the way down, especially in qualifying. So it's going to be very difficult over the course of a lap to remain quick and also make sure you have enough charge. So it's going to really benefit those drivers that have adapted to these cars as quickly as they have.
Absolutely. So they are circulating round on their outlaps at the moment. We had F3 qualifying take place earlier on, a 1 minute 30.539. Very much a lap time that we should absolutely be beating in this session. There was a lot left on the table in that F3 qualifying a few moments ago, and it was all purely due to the battery management. You've got that long back straight, and in Sector 3 we had a lot of drivers losing a lot of time. So you can see drivers go quickest of all in Sector 1, Sector 2, but it's all sometimes a bit about Sector 3 and how you deal with the battery with how many straights you have got. So it can be a difficult circuit in that regard, because when you're navigating through corners, you're mostly pushing on and very much flicking the car in like Nelson Alves is doing, the driver who didn't participate 1 week ago. So making his debut in terms of this season, debut in terms of overall F2, well, that's not a thing for him because he's been with us for quite a long time now, and this season very much is going to be setting his eyes on just continuing to develop further. His 55th start in F2 today.
Yep, certainly will indeed. Of course, last season claimed pole position in Texas. Looking to try, maybe even repeat that feat here tonight as he now makes his way through at the end of the middle sector, just out of turn 10. Now blast all the way down in 11. Straight line mode activated, then lifts into turn 11. This thick right is 12. A long right-hander of 13. The car just wanting to step out on you as it's a little bit off camber. And then straight line mode active, and we'll use the remaining battery all the way down this back straight, over 1 kilometre long. It is such an eternity to get down before you get onto the brakes again. A little lift into the corner, looks to rear slightly. That's going to cost him some time, and as you can see as well, has to navigate some traffic through the final part of the lap, through the final corner. Doesn't go to finish, elects to come into the pit lane. A little bit of a scrappy final corner. Comes in to, unfortunately, not set a banker time. Talking about banker times, it's Tom Roberts who sets the pace. A 31.0 from the Ferrari driver. Be looking here, Omi, to at least get off the back row, unlike last time in Silverstone.
Wasn't the easiest of times for the Scarlet team a week ago, as you mentioned. Looking to try and bounce back here. They're behind Thomas Kokeni, who's right now top, a 1 minute 30.671. Then you've got Zach Starler going into 3rd position, Victor Ridler into 2nd place in the Audi machine. So that's currently some of the lap times that we've got, but still plenty of drivers to come. 22, of course, in this field. And you've got Piotr Stauchilek, who now very much sends his Alpine all the way to the front of the field, as we now take a look at Elia Tomasetto, a driver who very much announced himself in F2 last season, season 42, and now he's going to continue to try and gather some good performances in season 43. Talking about good performances in season 43, that very much applied to this man. 2nd place on debut a week ago. Let's see what he does out of the final corner.
Yeah, let's see what Gabadi can do. Stevens now goes to the top of the times. 5th place for Gabadi, puts it just in front of teammate Gabriel Quintino. Liam Stevens picking up right where he left off for the moment, but still plenty of other drivers finishing off their laps, like Dirk Vermont here now coming out of the hairpin and into that final corner. Tamas Kokeni, of course, we're still waiting on a lap time from Tony Hietala. Talking about Hietala, he goes to the top of the pile by just over 1/10 of a second. Sorry, just under 1/10 and a half, I should say. Tony Hietala goes to the very top. This is exactly what we saw last time out in Silverstone here, Omi. It was Liam Stevens and Hietala battling for pole position. The Haas driver just about came out on top there in the dying moments of the session. Hietala dominated for quite a majority of that session. But are we going to have the exact same story here tonight with the Haas driver maybe just capitalising at the very end? But overall, after some very good banker laps, especially in that mid-pack from Jacobs down to Quintino, very, very close indeed.
Very close indeed. So some great lap times set on the board so far. 12 minutes to go in this session. And we are on board with the driver who put in the time for second earlier on. This is Nelson Alves. Still need to see a response from him in terms of completing a lap. We very much gave him the camera time pushing on earlier on, but he aborted and went straight onto this part of the circuit. This time he's going to take the racing line as he begins a flying lap around this circuit. We have had 4 different PCF2 races around this circuit. John Evans, Floris Wise and Joseph Loke, along with Kian Godendorf.
I think we might lost Omi there, so we'll carry on board here with Nelson Alves. I'm not sure what just happened, Omi, but hopefully can back commentary box. Still in the commentary box. If he is mic disconnected, but for Nelson Alves. Now straight line mode enabled, taking it all the way down into, of course, turns 11, 12, and then into 13. Still yet to put a time on the board. This is his second attempt to be a bit out of sync with everybody else after aborting that first run. Dowds and Roberts, the two advancing horses, have been able to make their way into 80 and 90. They've just come out on to the circuit. But for the man currently last, the only driver yet to set a lap time, Nelson Alves. What's it going to be? Is he going to complete this one, or is he going to abort again? He is going to complete this one. Up to the line we come with Nelson Alves. It's 5th fastest, a 1:30.663, only 5 thousandths behind Conrad Bowman, 8 in front of Tamash Kenny. So very fine margins separating drivers at the top of the pecking order, but a very strong lap from the Williams driver indeed. Now we make our way over to the 2, of course, Scarlet Red Ferraris, who had a very, very, very tricky time last time out in Silverstone. Qualified at the back of the field. Their race pace wasn't too strong either for Cameron Dowds. Now going to push on and see what he can deliver. He now makes it through turns 1 and then into 2. Got to slowly bring the car in. Agonisingly long wait to get the car into turn 2 and then through 3. It's all about just trying to pick the traction up as easily as possible before you make your way 5, 4 and then 4, 5 and 6, and he's up 25,000 first sector of the second. Now makes his way through the lefts and the rights of 8 and then into turn 9 for 10, unleashing straight line mode. Some traffic to the left hand side who have to deal with, and maybe some more in the final sector a little later on. A 10.5 to the good in the middle sector. This at the moment will put him in front of the likes of Vermont, Vidler and Styler, so he'll move himself up into 16th, but they will have an opportunity to respond as well. And how much battery has he saved for this long back straight? It hasn't seemed like too much, so he could just start derating and clipping as we make our way onto brakes and into the final corner, the hairpin, sorry, before the final corner, penultimate part of the circuit. And now through turn 15. Straight line mode active, across the line Cameron Dowds, only 16th fastest. Teammate Tom Roberts, he's up by a 10.5 as well in the middle sector. These two just seem to be inseparable all season long so far. The qualifying, the race, and now this qualifying as well. But it's 12th fastest for Tom Roberts. They've finally been separated, and that is a very good lap time indeed there from the Ferrari. at least promotes him into a competitive position. Stachulek now making his way out of turn 10 and up into 11. He's down in the middle sector by 9 thousandths of a second. And he now makes his way onto the back straight. Omi, are you back now after a brief blip with the Wi-Fi?
Yeah, absolutely. Should be back with you. And, well, thank you very much for taking everyone through those minutes as well alone. But I'm all back for the remaining 7 that we have still got to run here in Shanghai in our second qualifying session of this season. We're rotating our way out the final corner with Stachulek, fighting away with the car very much, but improves his time. 400ths of an improvement in the end, but currently still sitting in third as Conrad Bowman now is about to make his way towards the end of the lap.
Is indeed, was down in the middle sector. It looked like he just backed off to go again, and that's exactly what he was doing. Liam Stevens, what is he looking like through the final sector? Was down by 8 thousandths in the middle, just like Stachulek, but as he found time in the final part of the lap, he has, but not enough to match Tony Hitala, who himself not up in the middle sector. It seems like a different strategy being played on these second laps. He then dives straight into pit lane. Back Alves and Gabadi. Gabadi is backed off. Nelson Alves is on an out lap. And that was Elia Tomasetto moving himself up into 4th place. 5 tenths found on his previous best. A 1 minute 30.6. Santana moves his way into 7th. Lorenz Patton coming to the line. No, it's not. He just finished a lap. That was actually the other Alpine coming to the pit lane. That would have been of Larry Talking. Just making his way in. Actually, no, sorry, it was Nelson Alves coming into the pit. So maybe just put a heat cycle through that tyre there, Omi. But confusing one there from the Williams man.
Absolutely, so quite a lot going on. This is what I was trying to mention earlier as well. 4 races for PCF2 around Shanghai International Circuit. John Evans has taken a pole around here, so has Floris Wires. So as a certain Formula 3 driver from the past in terms of 2024, Joseph Loke and Kian Hodendorp as well took pole in season 39. So we have had quite a few over the seasons that we ran. This is typically a circuit which we only run 1 season at per game cycle. So we're doing it right at the start of this, I guess, second part of the game cycle as well.
Yes, we certainly are in something out in the stream settings. Make things run a little bit. But Alex Santana now just making his way back to the pit. Same with Quintino. And also just in front of him, that would have been of Victor Vidler. But it is Nelson Alves back out onto the road. But one thing I have noticed over these past 2 qualifying sessions, Omi, is that difference between the first lap and the second. We've seen a lot of drivers find a good 4-5 tenths of a second between those 2 runs as they learn the battery deployment and as they get a feel for the car and understand how the track conditions are as well. So it shows that there is a lot of potential still left in the cars in these early stages. Drivers are still very much learning the circuit we go to. And what could be the grid now, the order we have now of Hitala, Steve, Stachulek being the front runners come the end of this season, it could be completely flipped. We could have the likes of maybe Tamas Kokeni, a Quintino, a Vasso potentially at the forefront because of how much learning you have to do in the game. And if drivers get a little bit more time to practice as well, they certainly could see them surge up the order just due to how complex these cars are.
Yeah, there's so much learning to do, and of course as we go through this game cycle, well, the second part of the game cycle, it's going to get better and better and better for these drivers. Of course, a lot of them might be slightly demotivated a bit as well with how the battery is run. So some have already said that they don't really want to practice as much. So coming into these type of sessions, they are basically doing their practice along with also their qualifying. So that's the approach that we are very much seeing being, well, taken as well. You can see Alves very much just, well, keeping it very much calm and composed on the run towards someone. Not your usual boot it out of the final corner and then get going. But he's very much just going on to another lap with 2 minutes to go.
Yeah, it seems like he's just doing another build lap on to this one. We'll have to change our attention elsewhere, so he'll be one of the last runners to come to the line. It looks like Red Bull. Yes, it is one of the Red Bulls. Conrad Bohm, who currently lines up in P5 at 1 minute 30.658 so far for the Red Bull driver. First outing of the season. See what he can deliver here on his debut. Straight line mode active, of course, coming out of turn 4 and making your way turn 6 right hander. 700ths to the good in the first sector. That is a very, very strong start to the lap at the moment. This up into that second row of the grid, up into third place. Now making way using all the circuit he possibly can through 7, 8 and then into 9. It's just so interesting to see as well the different track use drivers can get. Tom Roberts gets a 5 place grid penalty. Might have a lobby restart for that one. Now make our way through turn 13 and we unleash all that battery, all that power down this back straight. But the only issue here, only for Conrad, is he has a lot of traffic to deal with in that final sector.
Lots of traffic. The driver that is currently right now 5th in your order, look to try and go quicker and quicker, is Conrad Bohm at the moment. He's taken a pole position before in PCF2, very much just dealing with the traffic through these final couple of corners. It hasn't affected it, you know, the absolute worst it could have, but he finds the improvement for 4th. Only 17 thousandths of a second, and now he's going to make sure that he is out of absolutely everyone's way to ensure that he doesn't cause any trouble. So Conrad Bohm, his lap time is going to put him in 4th. This is the driver directly behind him in terms of Elliot Tomasetto in the Audi. Let's see what he's going to manage. We mentioned him earlier on in the broadcast of how he's been, well, fighting his way up there. Had a strong showing in Abu Dhabi nearer to the end of last season. The checkered flag is flying, and it's all about finding the improvement and finding the time, like the Alpine driver does. Piotr Stauczyk goes to the top at 1 minute 30.437, but this is the driver who was on pole 1 week ago. He was the race winner 1 week ago. Sends it over the line, improves by 2/10, but is in P4.
Yes, it's an invalidation from Liam Stevens at the final corner. Would have been enough to snatch pole away from Stauczyk there. So we will have a different pole sitter this season. And Tony Hirtala makes his claim for that pole position. Gabani went to 3rd. He started on the front row last time out as well. Don't forget, he's certainly been a star. Lorenz Patton up into 4th place. Jacobs to 6th. Tulki now to 4th. Here comes Tomasetto to the line. Only 7th fastest for him. Steven Vasso looks like he's backed out of things. Here comes Nelson Alves. Where can he deliver his Williams car? Only 9th fastest for him. Alex Santana then next to the line in the Mercedes. He goes to 11th fastest just in front of teammate Dirk. Quintino is pushing onto a lap, but he has one of the Haas cars in his way. That's going to be Jensen Rowson who's just in front of him. But so far so good for the Aston Martin of Tony Hirtala. Preskin to 3rd and Quintino comes into pit lane. That's his session over and done with, and Jensen Rowson only to 20th, and it is going to be Tony Hirtala who takes pole position here tonight at Shanghai. Missed out due to invalidation last time out in, of course, Silverstone. And here tonight, he rights his wrongs, and it's his rival who starts down in 11th. Last time out was pole sitter Liam Stevens, who is the one to fall victim of the invalidation this time around. And for Stauczyk in 2nd, it is looking like we're going to have these two at the forefront of the action once again. The Alpine versus the Aston Martin, but it's Hirtala who takes pole.
Very much going to be a tasty fight. And, well, ever since Angelo Di Ortenzio moved on a few seasons ago, we kind of needed someone to become the king of qualifying. Tony Hirtala in season 41 definitely stepped forward. And ever since then, he's been setting fast laps on fast laps, his 8th pole in PCF2 after today in his 36 starts that he has had. So not bad at all for him.
Oh, certainly not bad at all. Double check if we are having a lobby restart or not. And your order for this evening. Look how close that top 6, less than a tenth of a second separating the cars. It's Hietala, Stachulak, Preskin, Gabadia, another good qualifying. Kokeni, Tulki, Patton, Jacobs, Tomasetto, and Alves rounds out your top 10. Then Stevens, Van Selter, Alex Santana, Dirk Vermont, Conrad Bohm, Steve Basso, Roberts, Dowd, Styler, Rowson, Quintino and Vidler. And we are going to have a lobby restart, ladies and gentlemen, for Tom Roberts' 5-place grid penalty. So we'll be back in a few moments. Make sure you use this time to maybe refill your snacks, refill your drinks. So maybe pop to while you're at it. We will have a frantic race on your hands in front of you. I'll see you in a few moments' time. Welcome back to Shanghai, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry about that minor delay. Problem lobby, and then we had to completely restart, but we are back now. And as you can see, very overcast here in China. Very interesting race. Maybe some rain on the cards as well for the drivers. A frantic one indeed, especially with the fact we have some drivers out of place, most notably last week's race winner Liam Stevens, and we're already getting underway for the 5 red lights. It's Hietala and Stachudek on the front row of the grid. The 5 red lights are on, and we're underway here in China. It's a very good start from the Aston Martin of Hietala, who's been able to hold on against Pitor Stachudek in the first couple of corners, and they've got just behind them Prescon trying to go all the way around the outside of Abe Gerbadi, the McLaren driver, trying to take that third place away from the V-Carb, who hold it on the outside, but then that's allowed Tamashko Kenny to the inside himself onto Gerbadi as we now make the run all the way down into turn 6. This is where some contact can be made, and contact has been made. That's Ave Gerbadi sent round with a pile up at turn 6. A traffic jam of cars, and Gerbadi drops down throughout the field with Tulki, Vermont, and also Steiner all getting involved. More front wings go flying, and we have a virtual safety car to end things off there at that whole procession of corners. I can see Nelson Alves has a little bit of front wing damage, and I think a majority of cars here, to be honest, Omi, will have some front wing damage after that sheer car park of cars into turn 6.
Typical F2 chaos on the opening tour of the race then, and we're very much under virtual safety car just due to the amount of debris, as you mentioned, that has come flying off the cars. All 22 are still running. Don't know whether that'll be the case in a lapse time, whether anyone's going to come into the pit lane to retire, because there was quite a lot of cars involved in opening lap troubles. Everyone from 18th downwards was involved in something that went on in terms of that meant that they lost plenty of positions. Higher up, there was definitely still some drivers having some contact, and as we've got a bit of trouble between Gerbadi here, and he's up against Vassar, and they're both just trying they're jumping in the air. They're trying to jump ahead because of the penalties, ignoring yellow flags, and they're stationary on the circuit. Outrageous scenes.
I think we might have another lobby restart here, as Vasso's got another legal overtake. Yeah, we are going to have another lobby restart here, ladies and gentlemen. The lobby has bugged under the virtual safety car, as drivers were getting illegal overtakes under the virtual safety car, even though they made those overtakes before the virtual safety car came in mission. So we'll be back again in a few moments, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll be back for another time in a few minutes. Be a bit more of an easier transition come around, so we'll see you in a few moments' time. Hello again, ladies and gentlemen, to PSGL PCF2. Hopefully, now have no more lobby restarts. So one thing to note as well with this restart is that safety cars are off, and they'll be off for the foreseeable future in this season. So we'll have no safety car infringements, no virtual safety cars. There's a big crash. There is a big crash. Safety car to go with it. It will be green flag racing all the way to the end, and the drivers have got underway already once more. It's Hirtala and Stachulek for the second time this evening on the front row of the grid. And we are racing here in Shanghai. It's a very good start once again from Hirtala, and this time a bit of a worse start for Stachulek, but he's just been able to hold on over Preskin and Gabadi once more, but this time Judah Preskin is trying to go all the way around the outside of the Alpine, but once again has left himself vulnerable to Ave Gabadi, who then will have Tamesh Kokeni all across on his inside, but he's just going to be able to slot in front of the Cadillac for now as we make the run into turn 6, defending the inside as Ave Gabadi. This is where we saw the stack up last time around, but it seems to be a lot more clean and a lot more plain sailing this time around through turn 6. I say that, that's a McLaren off in the background. That's of Stephen Vasso, who has had a half slide, and he's been able to keep it going low, but a little bit further back as that's to the inside. Tamesh Kokeni on Ave Gabadi. He now gets bogged all the way down the order. It's 3 wide through turns 9 and 10. Complete chaos now in the mid-pack, thanks to that lunge from the Cadillac driver. It really did unsettle his car. As you can see, it's 2 by 2. There's 3 wide in the background between a few cars. And now as we make our way through turn 13 and down that over a kilometre long back straight, it's still Hirtala who leads from Stachulek, but in this mid-pack, it is all to play for here as we're on board with Liam Stevens behind Kokeni now. Is he going to be able to get the move done here, Omi?
Well, fascinating opening lap. And let's see whether we're going to continue to see some manoeuvres. Stevens placing the car on the outside line. Also, look at that. Nelson Alvarez fighting his way through under braking. And he's just going to be able to get by. But that is very close between the Williams and the Haas as they rotate their way round the final corner and make their way onto the second lap of the race. And it's all about where you use the battery. Some drivers having to go on the defensive. Some drivers going on the attack.
They certainly are indeed. And for Tony Hirtala, Excuse me. He leads the way from Seechuk. That gap half a second. So he had a great opening that there. Did the Aston Martin. As you look a little bit further back, you've got the two Ferraris versus Santana and Victor Vidler as they now make the run into turn 6. Here on lap 2 of 28, it's going to be Santana on the inside of Vidler. And he'll be able to get that move done and up into 15th. The two Ferraris will still run side by side. Through now the S's, of course, Cameron Dowds and Tom Roberts. They really cannot be separated here this evening, as that's Cameron Dowds to the inside of Vidler, like we saw with Cockney on that last lap, but this time gets it done. A spectacular move from the prancing horse as he galloped his way down the inside there, and he's up into 16th place. But of course, overtake mode now enabled. You get more battery in these cars, a bit more to play with if you're within 1 second of the car ahead, which everybody is. See what these drivers now have to offer, especially chase after Hirtala.
Down the straight we go. Your main overtaking opportunity. However, lots of drivers can go with similar battery deployment strategies on that straight, meaning that some of the other parts of the circuit can be also a chance. We're seeing some of that play out right now as we were going wheel to wheel. That's Elliot Tomasetto ahead of Dirk Vermond. And then you've got Zach Styler waiting for his opportunity as well to try and go over the attack. Very close there between Jacobs. He's trying to get ahead of Patton, and Patton has to very much go on the defensive through the opening turns, but is able to stay ahead, and Jacobs not choosing to fight that one. We'll go further back, and that's where we will see a bit of a scrap, and you've got Zach Styler just trying to go for alternative racing lines to fight his way by, but he is the driver in 14th, Elliot Tomasetto 13th, and Dirk Vermond is in 12th.
That's Zach Styler to the inside of Tomasetto, late onto the brakes. Use that bunching up under braking to try a lunge to the inside. I don't think this one will pay off unless he can bring it all the way around the outside. And he does. Spectacular stuff there from Styler, and also went on to attack there to Vermond in front. But he's just not got the momentum to get a lunge to the inside. Cameron Dowds has now passed on Alex Santana down the inside at turn 9, and that's invited Victor Vidler into play, and there's some big tyre rubbing between the pair there as they make their way now into 11 and 12, and it is going to be Vidler who just sits behind Santana. Jacobs has been able to get past onto Lorenz Patton out of 13, but he's now going to be vulnerable if he can't get within a second of Larry Tilke in front of him, and Patton might be trying to fight this one back with Cockney as well also coming into play. He's going to look to the inside of the pair of them. Is he going to be able to get this move done? No, he just sits behind. He just really checks the car up and sits it onto the apex. So Nelson Alves isn't able to get in front and capitalise on that carnage in front of him. Off wide, though, goes the Cadillac. But as we start, lap 4 of 28 moves up and down throughout this field. And this battery management is really going to start to become crucial now here, Omi. Those batteries will certainly have been depleted after those first few skirmishes. Looking at the tyres have here tonight, everybody on the mediums on this opening stint.
Yeah, everyone just utilising those medium compound tyres. Very bad exit for Thomas Kokeni, the driver that we're currently on board with. He doesn't come under threat in towards the braking zone, but depending on battery deployment, that very much can change. Alves tucked directly in behind of that Cadillac through these very tight turns, and then an opportunity comes to just flick the car down the inside, but he is still very much waiting. Thomas Kokeni forcing him on the outside line. Switchback opportunity. Power applied now for Nelson Alves. That's going to be close if he keeps a nose in there. He does, and now he's going to be the one that is going to be vulnerable to our reserve driver and our winner from Silverstone. The British driver sending it to the inside line, and Stevens just assessing all options. Outside didn't work, inside will. He'll get the power down. It'll get very close as they navigate their way through, and he's hanging on to the car at massive speed as we make our way onto the straight, and the battery games will continue down towards turn 14.
Certainly will indeed, as that's now allowed Fansel to maybe look to the inside on Liam Stevens, but no, lets off a little bit earlier to save that battery. Once again, just bunch up into that hairpin, and Liam Stevens very lucky not to go into the side there of the Williams of Nelson Alves as Elliot Tomasetto comes in pit lane. I wonder if he's got any front wing damage on that Audi. I think he does on the left front end plate. Get trundled down the pit lane to see if there is some front wing damage. Head back to racing action first. It's still Hitala, Statulat, Preskin, Gabadi and Tuki rounding out the top 5. Jacobs was able to catch up in the end, and he stayed within 1 second. And yes, for Tomasetto, there was some front wing damage. So unfortunate there for the Audi. He's got a long old race ahead of him if he wants to come back into this one, as Dowds went to the inside there of Vermont. Wonder if there was a little bit of contact as the Mercedes goes all the way off the road, and that's allowed the other Mercedes through. So Santana capitalising on Dowds' risky lunge, going to have to ease the position, or is he? He's going to really fight this one aggressively. But it is going to be Alex Santana who comes out on top, with Victor Vidler now going to try and look to the outside. Dowds is really being as aggressive as possible, but the only issue with this here, Omi, is the fact you use up a lot of battery as he lunges it to the inside, and you use up a lot of your tyres. So the Ferrari driver maybe not playing the best management game at the moment.
Well, we'll find out down this straight, but he very much sent it up the inside a few corners ago. Right, is he going to come under pressure now? Alex Santana with Victor Vidler in behind, with Tom Roberts in behind, and it's very much a whole train of them heading down towards the braking zone. At the bottom of screen, you saw Fanzelter defending from Zach Styler. At the top of screen and now in the middle, we're very much seeing plenty of dive bombs. Never going to make the corner, Victor Vidler. He was always going to go in deep with how late he was on the brakes, and Cameron Dowds hangs on to 14th place. He's now a second away from the car in front. And that's a good exit off the corner for Tom Roberts, going wheel to wheel with Victor Vidler. How much battery are you prepared to use on the run towards turn 1? He backs out of it, and Victor Vidler is ahead, and he's in 16. Some good momentum as well now being utilised by Gabriel Quintino, who is going to try to turn the car from the outside to the inside, but will slot in behind he's driving for the Italian team, and he'll slot in behind the other Italian team.
Yep, have to sit behind, Will. Of course, Quintino Roberts staying in that 17th place for now, but the big battling that we've just seen from the likes of Dowd, Santana and Vermont has meant that they have dropped that 1 second back at 12 in front of them. That is going to be very costly if Vermont is not able to get back within that 1 second margin. Of course, the overtake detection zone is just on the entrance final corner. Really have a good final sector here if you are the Mercedes man. A within touching, a B within contention, and also Lorenz Patton has lost touching distance to Rashan Jacobs in front of him, so he may also be one that disconnects the train, and the top 6 might be able to break off into a train of their own as Jacobs caught out under braking, and so is Tulki as well as he goes into the back of Gabadi, and Jacobs gets the move done, capitalises on the mistake made from the Alpine, and the Red Bull is up into the top 5. Lovely piece of opportunistic driving there. Was caught out under braking himself, went to the inside. I think Tulki might have released the brake just to try and carry a bit more speed into the corner, misjudged things, went into the back of Gabadi. Now drops down to 6th place, but if you are Lorenz Patton, you wanted a bit more contact than that. He still remains outside that 1 second window.
Absolutely, if you are within, then for the entire next lap, that's of course if you cross the detection point being outside 1 second, you'll get a bit of extra energy to deploy to try and make an overtake and make a maneuver. So Patton could very much be looking in the mirrors, and there we go. Well, we were on board and we saw a car coming down the inside. That was Thomas Kokeni, who's able to fight his way by and deciding to use some of the battery to be able to make that maneuver. In the background, very close as well between Florian Fanzelter and Zach Styler. Zach Styler in the Aston Martin car, just slotting in behind at this stage on lap 7 out of 28.
Yep, so for Fanzelter, he has got his mirror all of Aston Martin here with Zach Steyer, and he has done for quite a few laps. Conrad Bohm also came into the pit lane at the end of that last lap. He's come out 2 seconds here of Elliot Tomasetto, so he is running undercut strategies. Once again, we bunch up into that hairpin, and it looks like this time Rashan Jacobs might have just got past Abe Gabadi, but this time it's going to be a little bit more of a challenge for the Red Bull to make his way through, and he doesn't make his way through. Gabadi holds onto the position, and Styler is able to get past there onto Fanzelter as Nelson Alves now comes into pit lane to get off those medium compounder tyres for the set of the hard. Same with Gabriel Quintino and Basso as well. Interesting to see how their strategy then plays out compared to some of the others. But make our way through lap 8 of 28. Hietala has not lost the lead. He's not come under any threat so far. But as the pit window looms here, Omi, I'm expecting these drivers like Seechuk and Preskin maybe get a bit more feisty.
Yeah, it's always one of the main things. Remember, there is no more safety car for the foreseeable future to bunch things up and to cause chaos. We don't have it here today. We're not going to have it for a while until some decision is made regarding to change that. So for now, it very much is going to be kind of like an F1 sim racing race that you might see. Whatever chaos happens, it can be an 8-car pileup. We're not going to have an interruption. We're going to very much just keep going and sprint all the way through. So if you can avoid the chaos and if you can get yourself into a good position, you're not going to have circumstances that will see it taken away from you, and that is something that you have got in the bag for the entire duration that remains.
That is certainly indeed, as says Preskin. By Roshan Jacobs coming under pressure now from Larry Tulki, who tries to look round the outside of the Red Bull. No move being made possible there. Brilliant elbows out racing from Roshan Jacobs. His Hietala comes into the pit lane, and so does Preskin, Gabadi and Jacobs. So now we see the trigger pulled from the race leader. The gun has been fired on those pit stops after 8 laps on those medium compounder tyres. They've called it quits. Now try and go the remaining. But how early they've boxed here, Omi? About 20 laps on this better the hard. Is it me, or is this screaming maybe a 2-stop strategy here tonight?
Well, they'll definitely have plans set out with the engineers. They, of course, have plenty of discussions. You usually have a whole team that are guiding them through what is going to be taking place. But around Shanghai International, we can very much see a split. I think we've had that in the past. The game, of course, has evolved and lots has come with the new regulation set that we have now got. So going to be fascinating to see. Remember, in this field, you've got a couple of reserve drivers with nothing specifically to lose. You've got some drivers making their F2 debut, quite a few, which we went through a round ago to start off the season. And they're all just trying to get some experience and get up to grips. You have Abe Gabadi, who was very much the standout driver, and the driver who was able to put together a great drive when it came to Silverstone circuit. We're currently taking a look at Thomas Kokeni having to get the elbows out up against Zach Styler, who very much slots in to 5th place and stays in behind. Into the pit lane now comes the race leader, and the driver who was net second earlier, Seechuk.
Seechuk into pit lane. Will be interesting where he comes out in relation to the likes of Preskin and Hietala. But the good thing here for Hietala, because of Preskin, round about 8/10 behind Seechuk when he came into the pit lane, he's got a healthy margin to the McLaren behind. Seechuk comes out just into that pack and into that gap. You have an over 1 second lead, and he certainly does indeed. So for the Aston Martin driver, very nicely going and nicely done indeed. A brilliant strategy execution as Abe Gabadi now comes under pressure from Nelson Alves, who himself got a spectacular undercut onto the cars in front. But nearly 2 seconds is that advantage for Tony Hietala onto Preskin. Of course, the reigning champion here in F2 is that Aston Martin man who currently leads this hard tyre train. Net race lead goes to the way of him. Tudor Preskin having a very strong race, being at net second place. But for Seechuk, maybe just stayed out 1 lap too long. Should have followed Hietala in. Now gives the Aston Martin here, Omi, a wonderful opportunity. Maybe even try and break away.
It does, and you don't want to be handing out any advantages at this stage. But Hietala bolting forward and now has that advantage, which currently is, as you mentioned, at 1.6 seconds. Still a long way to go. Still a lot to, well, still a lot that can change in this race. So we'll keep an eye and follow the gap as the race progresses and continues to move on. For now, we'll enjoy some more pit stops with Larry Tulki coming in, Thomas Kokeni coming in as well. So they're just going to choose lap 11 to be the point where they come in. Tom Roberts very much just sitting in behind of Victor Riddler down through turn number 1. They're currently 6th on the road, and it's now Liam Stevens, your leader, by 2.2 seconds. But when it comes to the net race lead, it's the drivers that have progressed from the medium to the hard compound of tyres, and that is Tony Hietala downwards, currently in 9th.
It certainly is indeed. That's a big slide there. Or that is, of course, Fiddler on the brakes. If we look back at Stachulek, he's now going to try and get past Tudor Prescombe. And then as also make sure he doesn't get overtaken by Abe Gabadi, who we know. Very strong driver. We saw it last time out in Silverstone. I saw it last season in F3. But even though he missed rounds, no fault of his own, that championship equation, all the way till the final race. He does not know when to give up. Constantly fighting very end, but he's now got Nelson Alves all over the back of him, so that might just free up the Alpine to look further forward on the McLaren. Laurie Tulke able to get past Lorenz Patton. He's up into fourth place, and he's back of this train there. Overcut and being forced to stay out did not work well for him, and now Nelson Alves has a beautiful launch out of turn 13 to get the run all the way down into that penultimate corner. He's going to look for the move to the inside. Is the Williams, and through he goes onto Abe Gabadi, late on the brakes but goes deep into the corner. It might give the V-Carb an opportunity to switch back. It does not. Nelson Alves makes his way up into a net P4. He's done a very strong drive in starting down in 9th place up into a net 4th. Very strong opening into the quarter so far from Anne.
This is the 5th time PCF2 is racing around Shanghai International Circuit. Our winners here in the past, Louis Welsh, of course the driver, who very much was the top when it came to controller, and he's been actually racing in PCF5. He was just doing that a few moments ago. Other winners around the circuit include Drake Dempsey, Bent Sabakonyi, and most recently in season 39, Leo Lund as well. And we've had some great drivers on the podium too, including Floris Wise, John Evans, Duncan Offland, Riccardo Benzoni over the years. So we've not had much of a sample size around Shanghai for PCF2 compared to, let's say, a Silverstone, which we'd basically been around most seasons bar 3 ever since F2 became a thing. But it is great to see that we've had some incredible names get to the rostrum, and I'm hoping that we can have some more incredible names join them by the end of today's 28-lap race that we are currently seeing.
Now hopefully we can personally keep some more drivers added to those lists, and at the moment Tony Hitala looks like he's adding his name to the winners list. Rashan Jacobs has decided to take a new strategy when it comes to the front wing of his car. Go without the nose cone, just have a whole piece at the bottom of the wing and have a little bit of aerodynamic changes, means a little bit less drag, and he's made his way through onto Florian Van Selter, so you see very nicely down that back straight. But as we make our way now up into the first corner in front of him, Tamas Kokeni, opportunity at Conrad Bohm in front of him. Conrad tires for 6 laps, Tamas Kokeni only for 2, so a 4-lap difference is going to be crucial over the next few corners. But one thing about Shanghai as well, Omi, not had much of a sample size, but I feel like this track is like Marmite. Some people love it, some people hate it. Just one of those tracks where it's so awkward around some of the corners, bit of a clunky mess that not everybody too involved with it. Is that's actually going to be Kokeni to the inside on Conrad Bohm and makes his way through. Circuit you either love or hate. I don't think there's much of an in-between.
Yeah, it very much appears that way. You have some circuits, like we were just mentioning, Silverstone, which are on basically most calendars. And then you get a circuit like Shanghai, which gets put once in basically like a game cycle, pretty much. And, you know, we didn't even have it for the last 3 seasons. So, like, the whole game cycle in terms of part 1 on F125, we didn't actually even see this. So we're having it now as we enter our 4th season on the game. The first one, of course, with the DLC. Into the pit lane comes Liam Stevens and also Tom Roberts as well, as they choose this to be the moment now that they get rid of the mediums, put on the hards. And also continuing on is Cameron Dowd in the Ferrari. He's 8 seconds away, and he's very much just pushing on and waiting for the time. So he's going for something completely different to what we've seen everyone do.
Okay, certainly he can deliver. And at the front of this pack here, Tony Hitala has been closed in by Pittor Stachulek, who's able to get past on Prescombe. So he's been able to make that move on the McLaren, and also just in Hitala, that gap now half a second. in the top 2 in this train of cars. Of course, Cameron Dowd's the only one yet to stop. That's why they are not 1-2 on the road. And Vermont from a set of a liar going for a small squabble. And Kirk wins out on that one. It seems like Elliot Tomasetto as well trying out that redesigned regulation of car like Roshan Jacobs. But for Tony Hitala, he's now going to have the mirrors full of Alpine. Does seem like Stachulek a bit more aggressive things, unlike the first stint where he's managing just behind, not using pace. Now where we potentially see him completely flip that, go on his lone self and just try and maybe push Hirtada to the limit, as Kokeni has been able to make his way past onto Lorenz Patton as they run side by side down into the hairpin. Cadillac finds his way through as Dowd finally makes the pit stop. Have everybody into the pit lane as Vasso has unfortunately come to grief out of turn 30.
Absolutely, as we now watch him down the straight. And, well, a big shame for him losing some time, and it seems like he's also going with that new regulation approach. I think it is fair to say. So we're seeing more and more drivers joining the club. Absolutely fantastic. Past half race distance, we're waiting for this one to come alive. It's a long-term race this. You've got to stick with this one because we've got a 5-car train at the front of the field in the battle for the win. I feel like when it came to Silverstone, as Vasso retires, first retirement of the race, I feel like when it came to Silverstone, we kind of were. We had a win battle taken away from us due to the battling for second, which meant that they gave Liam Stevens the advantage. And if you give Liam Stevens an advantage, as we described it in commentary at the time, he will absolutely take it and do some great things with it. And he was able to push harder and harder and took a victory, converting pole to the win. Today, we've got the field bunched back up. Let's hope that we can have it in this way all the way till the end, till about this part of the circuit on lap 28, and have an incredible fight. For now, we're going to go over to the mid-pack to entertain us, because Gabriel Quintino is in a battle. Around the outside goes Alex Santana. On the inside line goes Zach Styler, and that is 2 maneuvers that have been made on the driver of Quintino, who's going to find himself losing out.
Yeah, it certainly does indeed, and that could be a very opportunistic move if Zach Styler is able to pull this one off, and maybe one of the moves of the season already. Not past 1, but maybe past 2 as we reach the brakes into the hairpin, and he has got past 2. Spectacular stuff there from Styler as he's now up into 13th place, just behind Liam Stevens, and these guys are on a little bit of a different strategy. They came in a little bit later than everybody else, so on pressure tyres, a bit like what we saw of Alejandro Herrero last time out in Silverstone, and there to the outside goes Liam Stevens onto Conrad Bobe. He's going to really push those tyres to the limit. You can see the car squirreling underneath him, just trying to find any form of grip on those marbles, and he finds his way through. We're going to stay here with Zach as he looks to the inside of Conrad Bobe, who pushes him all the way across the curb on the inside, and that might now allow Alex Santana to fight back to the inside, and he does. Late on the brakes and to the side, into the side of the Red Bull, and Zach Styler also got collected in that one. Unsure if he's picked up some front wing damage. He is not, luckily it seems, but Alex Santana, too hot, too greedy onto the brakes, and unfortunately saw himself into the side of Conrad Bobe, and that has ruled out any chance of him keeping with Liam Stevens and co up in front of him. And he has now dropped down to 14th place. But disappointment there for Conrad Bobe, who tried the different strategy. Fortunately, no fault of his own, has come to an end.
It's one of those things where you're looking for one move, you're trying to be brave with one, but then you realise that there's another car ahead. And it's all about trying to avoid making contact, and it can prove to be quite a tricky thing. There's Roshan Jacobs, and he's up to 8th position. Are we going to get a move further back? Florian Fanzelter going late on the brakes. That is going to be tight with Lorenz Patton, and Patton is having to get out of it at this stage. Through goes Florian Fanzelter. Roshan Jacobs is ahead of the pair of them as they went battling down towards the braking zone. Now we come over the line and make our way onto the 17th lap of the contest. And these guys will continue scrapping it out in the next few tours of the race as well. Your current top 3 on lap 17 reads Tony Hitala, Piotr Stachulek and Tador Presekan, but 6 drivers all in the mix still as Conrad Bohm adds his name as a retirement from this race, retiring in the pit lane.
Out on foot there for Conrad Bohm and Steve Basso. Both been caught up in their own respective incidents. Tomasetto comes into pit lane as well. Might have, as you know, he boxed a little bit earlier on, so he's of course forced onto that 2-stop strategy. try his best to recover. Of course, with no safety car, we'll have no opportunity for this bunch back up. I wouldn't be surprised if Elliott just uses this bit of a testing session just with the car a bit more. But as we look back a little bit further up the field, Tudor Preskin is still around about half a second behind Stachulek. Same with now Alves as well. But this front train at the moment is all playing the waiting. Final couple of laps. That's when crunch time really does begin. That's when the overtakes start to happen. Because there's no point getting the move done now, having to play defensive for the remainder of the race. Because that's what ruins your tyres. That's what gives you the advantage on the battery as well. Something's happened to Cameron Dowds a little bit further back. I believe might have had a collision with Gabriel Quintino, which dropped them both down throughout the field. They've both come into the pit lane. I think that just sums up my suspicions.
Absolutely. So it's very much turning into just one of those races here at Shanghai. And as you mentioned, you don't really want to risk anything at this stage, and we end up with contact. Was that a risk further back though? I think it was. Dive bomb move.
Left.
Yeah, and Gabadi's left the session. There we go. So Gabadi's left. So surely a bit of a technical difficulty for him. And that is a shame for a driver who's running so highly. And now, due to no fault of his own, he's not going to have control of his car, but he's going to be plummeting down the order. And after starting the season with second place on F2 debut, that is not the way he wanted round 2 to go.
It is certainly not indeed. A disconnect there from Abe Gabadi, and certainly could have been in contention for a potential podium, if not for the potential race victory. And it has unfortunately come to an end in heartbreaking fashion. Once again, just something that's not the fault of his own coming into play in another PSGL season. They'll have to figure something out fast. Back in session and maybe, just maybe, try and recover some lost points. Zach Styler able to get past onto Lorenz Patton. Dan Jacobs now able to get past onto Gabadi's AI. Of course, no ghosting of PSGL, so you can't just phase through the car in front of you, even if they are disconnected. And Gabadi's AI has brought him into the pit lane as well. So that, to me, will now see Gabadi's race run. Unfortunately for the V-Carb, after what has been a very spectacular evening, just backing up that fine momentum he got at Silverstone, proving it wasn't a one-off and just debut form. Unfortunately, came into the pit lane and lost out big time. But Tudor Preskin, now the one behind Tony Hietala, as Stachulek was able to make his way through while all that was going on.
Absolutely. Sneakily behind the camera, fighting his way past and taking himself up and through in towards the race lead. He was threatening to do that for a while, but finally able to just make the maneuver, and now he's going to be the one who is dictating the pace out there on the circuit as well. I want to cut over to Liam Stevens because he's very much beginning now to get into a phase where he is attacking and wants to try and be a factor in this race. Much more fresher tyres, so if he can clear Jacobs soon, then he's going to go after the drivers who are currently in the top 6 positions, and then he's going to try and have an attack there. So our winner from Silverstone, a reserve driver this season, coming alive and very much continuing to bring all of the experience that he has in F2, everything that he's managed over the seasons he's been competing, and he's now going to be out of the slipstream, drawing alongside. A manoeuvre is going to be made down towards the braking zone way before it, and he hits the brakes now in 7th place.
Well, Liam Stevens, this could get very, very spicy indeed, especially with the Hash driver now really starting to make inroads on those front runners. Not Raul, of course, championship leader after round 1 out at this stage of the Grand Prix. There is still 9 laps to go here in Shanghai. That is plenty of opportunity, especially when compared to some of the drivers. He's got 5, he's got 4, and he's also got a lap advantage. Some of those drivers in the top 6, so it certainly is all to play for still. Having that much of a difference could be on the end of this race, as here we see Alex Santana versus Tom Roberts, and Tom Roberts gets that move done, but Santana goes for the up and under. Can he pull it off? Not Fiddler speeds in pit lane as well. That brings an end to another one of heat races. Our third retirement, sorry, of the evening. All 3 have been in the pit lane of Bohm and Vasso. At the front of the field, it is still Stachulek from Hietala and Preskin that top.
That's currently how the order looks. We are running into the final stages of this one. 3 retirements, 19 remain in the field, and we very much are looking forward to an incredible finish to see whether we're going to get Tony Hietala, a driver who took his 8th pole position earlier on, convert it into victory. Or is someone like Seechuk going to be here to disrupt the party? Seechuk has stood on an F2 podium 5 times before. He's had 14 starts at this level, and he's now looking to try and grab his first victory in the PSGL PC F2 Championship, which has been in operation since season 29 non-stop. And we have seen some great champions crowned over the seasons, and we're looking to try and add our latest driver to that in season 43. We have about 7 laps to go here in round 2 of the season in China, and who is going to step forward and take advantage? Remember, we have seen lots of contact so far. We have seen lots of drama. There's been lots of twists. You're watching PCF2 as a reminder, so things can change very, very quickly. So these last few laps are going to be unmissable because there's a lot that is about to happen.
There certainly is indeed. See what these drivers do have to offer here tonight. For, of course, Liam Stevens. He is at the back of this train now. It's going to be very, very interesting for what the Haas driver can do. And is he going to be able to find himself moving up enough to have an opportunity on that final lap to get past Seechuk as they make the run down into the hairpin once more? Tulki pulls out to the right-hand side. Just able to find a move for alongside with Nelson Alves. Now, as we head up into that final corner to start lap 20 of 28, we really are into those dying phases of the race. It is all certainly to play for us. Tulki is getting close, just does not pull out to that right-hand side for a move, but don't be surprised if maybe at the end of this lap, start of next here, Omi, if we see some drivers like your Tulkis, like Kokeni, Stevens and Alves start to make those moves because they want to be in second place by the time we get to that final lap.
Yeah, you want to be in a position where you're a contender for victory. That's what's happening in the background. The Liam Stevens Express continues. Down at the braking zone of turn 6, another maneuver made before we get to the high-speed turns. And it's Stevens up to 6th position. And he now is going to look to try and continue to attack on his fresher tyres. He's got the freshest of the entire bunch that he's racing at the moment. And are we going to see... well, continued brilliance here from Stevens. He still has a few more drivers to pick off. And then remember, he's got to make sure that his battery's in a good position to just have a chance of an attack come the final lap as well. Lots to play out, lots to look at heading into these final stages. And we run down the straight once again. It's can you catch out your rival? Can you try and make the maneuver? Stevens looks close this time around to Tulki. That's the driver in 5th. Tulki in turn trying to put the pressure on Alves. This could get interesting into the braking zone. No risks taken. They're currently sitting in behind and waiting for traditional chances to come their way. You've gone so far, you don't want to bin the race right at the end.
Oh, you certainly do not. And for Liam Stevens, he has now got a few more cars in front of him to go. I can report to you what happened to Abe Kabaddi. He's game crashed, which unfortunately led to that disconnection. Why he is no longer in contention for this race victory either. And he's pushing Liam Stevens. He's pushing Larry Tulki through turn 3, but just has a slight wobble of the rear end. And that just means he's not going to be in contention for a move down into turn 6. But he's got so much more grip, so much more braking performance, and he's just so much more confident that this strategy might have just fell perfectly into the lap of the Haas driver. Can the reserve make it 2 for 2 in the opening rounds of the season? And look at the drive. He gets off turn 8 to the inside. He'll go for 9. And is he going to be able to get this one? He'll surely have the traction out of the corner. He rubs up alongside the Alpine just to try it halts his momentum as much as possible, and to the inside it will go, forcing Tulki to that narrow inside line. There's contact. They both slide out and still facing in the right way. Somehow the pair of them are. And Stevens with another slide. The rear of the car getting all twitchy, getting all trigger happy as he tries to fight his way past here on Larry Tulki. But the only issue is they're losing ground to the cars up in front. He's going to look to the inside now, into the penultimate corner. Can he finally get past the Alpine? He'll squeeze him all the way wide and allow Tamas Kenny to follow him through. But the Haas driver moves himself up into 5th place, and he's now got Nelson Alves in front of him. It was hard but fair racing between the pair, and Tulki drops down 2 places, but he's still looking to fight back against Kenny.
Feisty, elbows out to this stage at the moment as we take a look in with Larry Tulki, looking to the inside, looking to the outside. Any room is available. He's going to very much go for it at this stage. So Stevens has to do a bit of recovery. He has to now utilize those tyres through these corners to get back close to our drivers nearer to the front of the field, and the gap is only 1.5 tenths of a second. Make that 2 tenths now between Hietala and Stauchelek. It is very much game on in the battle for the win, but Liam Stevens needs to push on if he wants to be a factor when it comes to the podium and just be in contention in case anything takes place in terms of the win as well. Zach Stard is closing in on this battle. Larry Tulki, Tamas Kenny, Liam Stevens. It was an exciting couple of corners, and they have now brought in a few other drivers into play as well, as we're about to make our way onto lap number 25 very, very shortly.
Yes, we certainly will indeed. And it is certainly getting very, very feisty indeed at the front of this pecking order, at the front of the field, where we now see Statuek coming under a bit more pressure from Tony Hietala behind. He's starting to get a little bit more racy in the Aston Martin. Of course, these were the two which gave Liam Stevens the win last time out in Silverstone. Will the script be different, or will something happen between them to maybe give Liam Stevens a second race victory of the season? Back-to-back race victories potentially for the Haas driver, and this time he would have started from down in 11th. But Hietala, who started from pole, will want to make it another driver who converts pole position into race victory. I mean that both our pole sitters of the season have gone on to win their respective races. Statuek still holds on to that race lead, though. It's Preskin in 3rd, who's just trying to hang on to the coattails for now and pick up on the pieces if anything happens further up, with Alves and Stevens really just trying to close back up to those cars in front. All that hard battling has meant that Liam Stevens' work has got that little bit more harder and a little bit more difficult, and the way he has to carve his way through the field now is going to be a bit more of a challenge. But we see now, look at the run he gets through 8 and then into 9. He once again goes for a move into this left-hander, and this time clears Alves with no difficulty. That's another car ticked off. 3 to go, and when we cross the line, it's 3 laps to go with Hietala making a lunge there onto Statuek. Was there contact?
Well, they're beginning to push. They're now focusing on where do we want to be come the final lap of the race. That's what they're basically beginning to now start to decide. And you're going to have games being played very, very shortly. Tony Hietala beginning to get closer and closer to Stauchelek, but very much is going to just be looming large in the mirrors at this stage. You can see he kind of tilts the car to the inside line. He's not going for a dive bomb. He's just making sure that Stauchelek knows that he's there. Very much large in the mirrors, and just making sure that he can stay as close as possible and try and do anything to interrupt his rival's momentum. 3 to go in Shanghai with the race victory on the line, and we very much are not done yet. We said this was going to be a long-term battle. We said that we were going to have to wait a little bit to get this fight, and we are going to get this fight. Abe Gabadi's got back in, but he's all the way at the back of the field, and this is now where everyone is bunched together, and it's about to get a bit tasty. If you're not in those higher positions, are we going to see some drivers possibly start battling for 3rd, 4th and 5th, and will that cost them time? Will someone go for a move on Hietala as well, and could that cost them time? Stauchelek basically just hoping for a repeat of what happened last time out between 2nd and 3rd.
Yes, he certainly is indeed. As now we see, are we going to see the same move from Liam Stevens? No, just isn't able to pull out to that left-hand side quick enough. Go for a lunge on the McLaren, but he might try it into turn 11. He certainly has the pace, and this will put Hietala and Statuek on fine notice. They'll be on red warning and maybe up to DEFCON 5 with the car behind them being on those fresher tyres. And Liam Stevens now looks to the inside of the McLaren, and he is surely just going to get in front as they drag race all the way down this over kilometre long back straight into that hairpin, and it will be Stevens on that more favourable inside line into this hairpin, as I think here Tyler's also gone for the move. He has gone for the move onto Stachulek. It's Stevens up into third, and who will get out in front in the pecking order here into the penultimate corner? It's Tony Hietala, who starts the penultimate tour in the race lead. But, crucially, has he gone too soon? And what will happen between Stachulek and Stevens? Jacobs comes into the pit lane, so unfortunately for him, something has happened there. And Ave Gabadi has retired from the session. Zach Styler making a move on Tamash Kokeni. He's also a driver on younger tyres that can make his way up through the field, and a podium could still potentially be on the cards for him. But this penultimate tour is certainly one to look out for, as here comes Liam Stevens onto Stachulek. There's some slight contact. The Alpine's forced deep, and the Haas driver is really pushing to just try and keep the Aston Martin.
Yeah, this is getting really close. So here Tyler now trying to break away. Can Stevens try to do it once again? We know he can be so quick at this part of the circuit. Can he rotate the car through to have a lunge? He won't want to do it this time as well to try and minimize the chance of these two both losing time. But this is getting really feisty. Here we go then. We're about to make our way down the main straight once again. Stevens is there. He's done so much hard work, but two cars still remain ahead.
It's going to be ever so difficult here for Liam Stevens to get this one done. You can see Stachulek's car on those older hards just really starting to slide out, just really screaming for any sort of grip, any sort of respite to just try and keep the car stable. Styler was able to get past Larry Tulke for 6th place. He is still in contention for a podium. Liam Stevens lays onto the brake, flicks the car in, but of course this final lap is when battery management really does go out the window, and Liam Stevens still has near enough a full pack at his disposal. As we make our way through the penultimate corner, the final tour begins now in Shanghai, and this could be a super finish here in China. Who's going to come out on top of this chaotic race? Stevens using everything he can, using that superior grip to try and carry as much speed through the first couple of corners. Maybe, just maybe, throw a lunge into six, and if he's got enough speed heading into the S section, maybe try and catch Hietala off guard. Onto the brakes will go. It's Stevens, late on the brakes, there's contact. He tags the back of Hietala, but Stevens, does he find his way through? Stachulek will fight this one. He does fight it enough and holds on to the position, but this is giving the Aston Martin more and more breathing room and giving him the opportunity to break away. It's Stevens to the inside again. Can't find a lunge to the inside as he looked for the nose there for into turn 9, and we now make the run into 11. It could just be sit behind, see what happens between Stachulek and Hietala, but the Alpine's gone deep into turn 11, and this might just give Stevens the opportunity and might just give Hietala the race win in hand. As we now make the run out of 13 down this back straight, Hietala will weave to try and break the slipstream, to try and break the toe, but he surely has a big enough margin to hold on against the Alpine behind him. It's mainly about that battle for second place. Will it be Stevens? Will it be Stachulek who takes the second place spot on the rostrum? It's to the outside for the Haas driver. It just doesn't seem like it's enough. There's contact. Stevens onto the grass, but it's Hietala who'll make it 2 pole sitters in 2 races to 2 race victories in 2 races for the pole sitter. Hietala wins round 2 here in China from Stachulek in 2nd, and then Liam Stevens, a valiant drive from 11th to 3rd. He just couldn't take it in the end, but it's Tony Hietala, our 2nd different race winner of the season. The opening rounds have been absolutely fantastic, and a chaotic race here in China ends in the pole man taking the top spot once again, and this time it is the Aston Martin of Tony Hietala. What a drive, and flawlessly executed with that overtake on the penultimate lap.
Well, we did say it was going to come down to the final stages, and it absolutely did. Tony Hietala pounced forward, got himself a bit of an advantage just to be there, just to keep himself ahead, and this has been absolutely a fantastic way to kickstart Season 43. It's delivering once again when it comes to final laps and, well, the entire race duration as a whole, and I think it bodes well for the remaining rounds that we have got to run this campaign. And who's going to step forward next time out? Who knows? Because it seems like it's changing consistently. And this is absolutely brilliant to watch.
Once again as well, the front row of the grid have made it a 1-2 in the race. It was Gabadi and, of course, Liam Stevens last time out. This time it was Hietala and Stachulek. What a race they did give us. 7 temps separate the top three. Less than a second. Spectacular racing. Stevens ends up in third. Preskin in fourth. Steiner from 19th to 5th. A spectacular drive from the sister Aston Martin car. Then it's Nelson Alves, Tulkey, O'Kenny, Roberts, who picks up Ferrari's first points of the season after a torrid Silverstone that they had. Then it's Vermont, Fanselta, Santana, Patton, Dowd, Tomasetto, and then Quintino, NSB, Rowson, Jacobs, Gabadi, Vidler, Bohm, and Stephen Vasso, who round out order. So, Omi, as of course, we head back to where everybody came into choose our glorious faces. But what were your thoughts on that race? Tony Hietala, he timed it to perfection, but Liam Stevens' drive through the field and Zach Steiner's as well, showing that the overcut certainly can work on this game and in these regulations.
Well, that was a little bit of fun, I think it's fair to say. Another F2 race, which has been thrilling to watch. We said it earlier on, I'll repeat it again. We are having some campaign, and we had an F1 25 season where, you know, there was definitely quite a lot of drama. Let's just say Mexico, maybe, in season 41. We've had our fair share, but we were on a game. We still are on that game, but now a different regulation. But it was hard to overtake previously on, let's say, part 1. Part 2 is very much a little bit more of a different type of race, which is very much great to say. And we're actually, Max, you're going to get to speak to Tony Hietala, who is about to join us. Of course, our reigning champion as well when it comes to PCF2, here to retain his crown. And it's going to be very fascinating to see all of the insights that he's got to tell us about what took place in that race.
It certainly will be indeed. Just waiting to see if anyone box, but it does not so for now. So we will head to see what the reigning champ does have to say. Kicking his campaign off well for 4th place last time out and now a race victory. See what Tony Hietala has to say here tonight and what eventually aspirations are for the rest of the season. So let's now drag him box. Hello, Tony. Can you hear us?
Yes, hello.
Well, first of all, congratulations on the race victory. Talk us through that one. Talk us through quali. Talk us through the race. How did you find things?
Well, quali was good. I had some improvement in my lap, but it was enough for pole, so good enough. And then the race, first stint was pretty calm. Got the chill in front with my own pace, and then I got the gap out of the pit exit, and there was no point in trying to destroy the tires, keep that gap. So I just again chilled. Then Piotr went by me at some point, and then I just tried to the last few laps, just tried to pressure him, maybe into a mistake and get past him, and I did. And then the last few laps was just pushing as hard as I could. And yeah, it was good.
Yeah, it certainly was a good race and drive from yourself, of course. With those final couple of laps there, once you get past Stachulek, was there much focus on the battery saving, or was it very much try and use as much as I can within reason, brake as far clear racing cars behind as you can?
Well, yeah, I mean, I was using pretty much the same battery I was using every lap, just so that I could have enough for the long straight. And that's it.
Well, it's certainly pay off, and of course, being the second round of the season, kicked it off nicely with a 4th place in and now a race win here in China. Just how has these early stages of the season gone? Have you found your rhythm yet on these cars in these regulations, or is there still a lot more to come?
Well, I mean, so far it's been going good, but I think I could eke out a few more hundreds here and there of my pace. Just have to drive some more and practice, and it will come.
indeed. And also quickly about qualifying as well. Just how difficult is it to adjust to having to lift off in qualifying compared to, say, the F125 cars where it's just flat out racing? How difficult of an adjustment was that
Well, it's quite the change, but it really depends on the track. For example, Silverstone, it's really hard. Like you have to get a really good ERS map, lift a lot. But for example, again in China, you don't have to lift as much. So it was. I think this race was a lot more fun than last week's.
a lot more fun as well on the action in it? It seems like you could that little bit more. But next week we head out to Spa. We head to Belgium. Of course, that's going to be very difficult. Battery. Just first of all, will you be racing? And second of all, are you confident around Spa?
Yeah, I should be racing, and well, we'll see. I'll start practice, and if the pace is good, I should do my best.
Certainly shall indeed. And one last one before we let you celebrate the victory, Tony. Just what are your aspirations for the season? What are you planning to do to hopefully retain the title?
Well, that's what I'm going to try. I mean, there's a lot of quick people this season, so I'll just try my best and see what's going to happen.
Hopefully. And yeah, pick up a few more race wins. Congratulations, Tony, and yeah, enjoy your evening. And
Yeah, thank you.
well, that was Tony Carla, ladies and gentlemen. But that is all it seems for the drivers we are going to get here, Omi. So is there any last words from you before we head off for another week, before a trip to Spa?
Well, there's definitely quite a lot coming up. I think it is fair to say here at PSGL, you've got the PlayStation tiers as normal on the Monday, so definitely tune in to that. Lots of great commentators taking you through all of the racing on that side of things. And then, of course, it's back to our faces next Thursday, which I'm sure everyone's going to be excited about as we go racing around Spa. So looking forward to seeing what type of battle we're going to have, but I think it's going to be another race which is in the balance all the way till the end. But yeah, thank you very much everyone for joining us.
Yes, thank you all very much for joining us indeed. It is going to be a frantic race at Spa next time out before, of course, we head into a break week. So you do want to end off the opening 3 rounds with a little bit of momentum before you head into a crucial reset before a burst all the way to the end. Let's quickly show you the rest of the calendar. It's Madrid after the break week, then Austria, Imola, Vegas, Mexico, Brazil, Bahrain, and Texas. But yes, of course, next time out, our last race before a week off, and then a mad dash all the way to the end. So make sure you join us at, of course, 8 p.m. UK time, 9 p.m. European time for a race at Spa. It should be interesting, it should be frantic, and we shall see how difficult those batteries are to manage and who will come out on top. Could we have a third different pole sitter convert to race victory, or could we see Stevens or Hietala maybe come back and take it again? See you all next week for a trip to the Ardennes Forest. Thank you ever so much for watching. Stay safe, stay well. Thank you. Bye-bye.